What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Game Dev Unchained, the #1 podcast about game development and the lifestyle thereof. I am your host, Brandon Pham, and this is another Roundtable news episode, which also means I have a panel of game developers here to discuss the latest news and game development impacts in the past month. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and switch to the 3cam love screen. What's up, everybody? All right. To my right side, let me see. I see. First try. We have Ray Graham. What's up, Ray?
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
And on my left side, we got Richard Q.
What's up, guys?
All right.
Yo.
So, you guys know the rules. I'm going to come up with a few topics and let's go ahead and jump right into it, right? So, of course, fresh off the news, a storm has hit California finally, and this is kind of going to affect Ray first. So we know he's going to be the first one to die if this is of any impact. The coronavirus postponed GDC, which also meant GDC is canceled, right? Let's just be honest. So, of course, the GDC is a game developer conference that happens once a year. It's one of the biggest events that happens for game developers to kind of get together, spread the love, spread the news, share, connect, all that stuff. Usually happens in March, but we're about 2 weeks away or a week away when this podcast is out, this episode. And everybody pretty much within the next couple months, GDC included, events have been canceled left and right because of this scare. Now, I want to hear your opinion, Ray. Let's just start with you, right? How much of this is all hype? How much is real? I mean, you're in the what do you call it? The hot zone now, right? You're in the quarantine zone. Is it as scary as everyone's kind of making it out to be right now? It just seems like San Francisco is in an emergency lockdown, all that stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's as serious as everybody's making it out to be, but definitely it's better to be safe than sorry, right? And so getting a bunch of people together in one place, usually there's always like the notion of the con flu. When you do a big event like that, you come back home and you're always sick because you got some sort of sickness from somebody else that was there. Mm-hmm. With coronavirus going on, you just really can't take the risk, right? So you have to be careful.
So Richard, like I know that you have GDC plans, right? And from what I heard, you're still planning to go up there to kind of meet and connect. And I'm sure there's a lot because not a lot of people had the opportunity to cancel their flights and a hotel and everything, right? So we'd love to kind of hear your thoughts about this. Is the coronavirus scary enough for you? You're too tough for it. Tough it out.
It's definitely scary. Not a day goes by that I don't get updates like about how some number of people have contracted it at a different country and more people have passed away, or this conference has been canceled. Like Google's their biggest conference just got canceled. The thing about going to GDC for me is that I'm a bit lucky because I have people that I can stay with, like family I can just stay with, and so I didn't have to book hotels really too far in advance. And like my flights, I've got a lot of points saved up from actually when you and I worked together in San Fran, Brandon. I think because as an indie developer, a lot of our strategy for PR is to meet with press and to just talk to them and demo the game. That's actually what our current goal is. We can do that in a much smaller environment. In a weird way, a very large, crowded Moscone Center is not really what we were hoping to show the game at anyway. So we can kind of keep it more on the down low. In some weird way, because there's not going to be that, there's going to be less people at GDC, maybe it's going to be a little bit easier. But when I was talking to my PR team, they were saying just fly in early, fly out the same day, and just just keep yourself safe. And so, I'm going to do a little risky, but yeah, that's sort of the plan.
And of course, a lot of efforts are being made for people who aren't like yourself, well, you have the flexibility because you're within California, but a lot of people kind of depend on that week to kind of promote and help out with everything that is their game. Not as you can imagine, not a lot of people can delay a year and pick it up in GDC 2021. So there are relief efforts being made all over the place. Yeah. Go ahead.
I saw the relief efforts. That's really cool. I thought GDC was just supposed to be postponed till summertime, but I don't know. Maybe that was something I read a couple days ago. Is that true? Or
that was said? But let's be honest, man. Like, it's gonna be. They didn't put a date. I mean, that's the first. Well, go ahead.
They're still trying to figure it out, but also like summertime is right in the midst of SIGGRAPH and E3 and Gamescom. Like it's good luck. Good luck finding a spot. GDC.
Yeah, finding a spot and like just having people replan things to kind of fly out there. It's going to be at best a very small fraction of what would have been, 29,000 attendees for 2019, right? It would be way less. And without the crowd, not a lot of people are going to be very interested to kind of go GC. People have other plans and other conferences to go. So it's as good as dead. I think they should just, count their losses and just move on and just plan for the next one, because we don't even know how long the coronavirus will actually extend to. I think it's kind of foolish for them to kind of plan something and then it still is a problem in the summer and they have to do it again. That would be pretty bad PR. But aside from that, like, I kind of want to look at the overall impact of what this scare is doing, right? The last time this was as scary was SARS or something of the effect where globally there was an issue, right? But coronavirus is kind of affecting the stocks market and everything that goes through China, basically. A lot of industries are affected. I want to know your thoughts, Rich, about, do you think this is going to play a bigger role in the game industry, this coronavirus thing?
I honestly don't think so. I think it's going to really just slow down, just like any sort of like global development. Like so like the largest publishers, I think, will be hurt the most because like obviously it's harder to do like any sort of travel. Like So I know I work as a consultant for Tencent, and like they have very strict rules now on like traveling, and they're suspending all sorts of like people should have to work from home in certain areas and stuff. Like my LA office was actually told to go home and until further notice, do not come into the office, and that's preempting sort of like concerns that they have because the location of our office. Like there's like high traffic with like other companies too, because it's a shared working space, and so it's not like things are still going to get done, but maybe they won't get done as fast or the quality won't be as high. There's definitely like a lot of people just like kind of joking about, oh man, is going to break out like in Koreatown in LA or something, or like, oh, there's news that it happened in San Antonio, or so it definitely dominates a lot of like conversations, and there are some real world impacts that happen, but I don't think it's going to affect the video game industry as a whole. I actually think like PR will be certainly stifled a bit because of these conferences, but then I think that just means that creative marketing will have to play a bigger role, and maybe that actually makes it easier for indies to get their word out. I don't know. We'll see.
How
about you, Ray? Yeah. How do you feel?
No, I just think it will be a way to get better at video conferencing, remote working.
Yeah.
Like in my company, we already do a lot of that already. We already distributed it all around the world, and so it's just like, okay, well, don't travel. Do critical meetings over Zoom, and then it's just business as usual, right? So I don't see it. I see it. It can be a lot of good things can come out of it, where people understand that, oh wait, this still works. We can still do Zoom meetings. We can still do remote work, and maybe we don't actually have to be in offices all the time, right? So that's one good thing that will come out of that. Maybe people will learn this.
Yeah, I mean, it is encouraging that the game industry has proven to be recession proof in 2008. So now we're going to be corona proof or virus proof in 2020. And I do think there are some side benefits of people realizing like, hey, maybe we don't have to be standing next to each other as much. And maybe there is going to be a rise in remote work in the game industry and more of that now that people have cooties.
Yeah.
So aside from that, the coronavirus hopefully is just one of those things that I feel like is just overhyped and people are just being extra careful. I think GDC has always been a hotbed for diseases. So even without a new virus coming about, I think people have always kind of been scared of GDC because we always come back with some type of sickness, just rubbing shoulders with the dirtiest types of people, game developers. So in the meantime, I think it's all good. I mean, it is sad. I was really looking forward to it, like many of you guys. I don't know, Ray, you live there, but I was fully planning out to be up there for a whole week, party it up. It's one of my favorite times of the year to kind of meet old friends. It is kind of weird to kind of not go this year. It's been like 5 years in a row for me, at least. For all the people out there, I feel bad for you. Again, extending my empathy for people who just were looking towards that as a way to kind of promote their game and can't really do that as much. Hopefully, we can. I
mean, you can still come. You can still come and party it up, right? But I just won't be partying with you. I'll stay far, far, far away from you. But
yeah, he'll be on a Zoom link.
I'm sure there'll be. I'm sure there's be some folks partying it up.
I think so too. I would like. Yeah. I would love to see if GDC kind of I mean, if it's favorable, they probably would release of who is actually going to still come. Like I'm pretty sure their record-breaking number would have been 30,000 again or something. So it would be pretty nice if they just let those numbers slip and like 5,000 or 10,000 people are still going to show up. It might actually help, but I don't think so.
Nah, when it comes to companies, nobody's coming, right? I'm just talking about indies and just small folks that want to come out and just meet up with friends and party up. I'm sure there will still be some that are coming, right? Yeah. A few, maybe.
Yeah, Richard and his buddies. So
yeah, we'll see. But I'm not gonna be partying, man. I'm too old for that stuff.
No, you're never too old to party, man. So fresh from our last roundtable, we're kind of talking about Stadia, right? Stadia kind of had like a hobbling start. And in more recent news, pretty much right after we talked, there has been some kind of like dirt coming about Stadia. There's developers coming out saying, well, indie developers especially coming out and saying that the exclusivity deals that they've been approached with has been just downright deplorable and laughable and completely disrespect. I was surprised to kind of see that type of thing, but at the same time, if we kind of leveraged or at least weigh in on how Stadia is doing as a platform, early adopters like our friend Ray over here have been 49 days and counting without any real news or updates on their news page or whatever, right? Is this still coming? Is this still true? Have they fixed that? Is this still a thing that you guys don't know what the hell's going on?
I mean, I'm not watching for any new Stadia news, right? I know that there's things in development and there will be things coming down the pipe eventually. I think you're also overselling a bit the news about the deals with the indies, right? Really, it's just like indies are like, why should I put my game on this platform if I don't know the numbers of people that are using it and there's no financial incentive for me to do so either, right? So like, why should I spend the time? Right, mm-hmm. and that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. But they go downright to the money part, man. They said like a lot of
there's no money. There's no money. Like they're not offering money, right? So that's right, and that makes sense to me, right? That like Google is not pouring just money down the drain to try to get people onto the platform when they're trying to use it in other ways, right? Mm-hmm. And so actually develop develop
Right.
IP that will actually stand out on their platform.
Yeah. Good luck with that. So Rich, I kind of want to walk over to you, right? So
Yo.
so Google as a company have been in recent years been earning a bad rep with not following through with their products, right? I mean, they're more of their thing now. And on top of that, they're trying to get people to get interested with Stadia, and they're just not doing a good job. I think in a very noobish way into the game industry, they're just causing a lot of mistakes, right? Like, what would you say as a game developer if you want to, as in your opinion, like how can they turn this around at this point to kind of earn everybody's trust for developers, for gamers? Like, is there a road back for someone that's not interested in this platform at all? Yeah. Like, what would be a business way to kind of get on the good terms?
I always had a theory when I was a little kid that like people don't buy they're not attached to platforms, they're attached to games. And like very, very young, like when Mortal Kombat came out and it was on the Super NES and it was on the Genesis, and it was like, oh my God, like you can do the blood code in Mortal Kombat. That's like the superior game. And so like everyone like sort of flocked to that. It was less about like the platform it was on. It was more about the game itself and the features it has. I think like the problem like with Google's sort of business model with Stadia is that they're just letting you play games that you otherwise can play just like more conveniently. And that's just like, I kind of said this in the last roundtable that's a hard thing to sort of quantify. Also because like the pricing is a bit wonky, and because like, you have to like factor in things that you don't normally factor in, like, oh, what's my what's my hardware specs? Like most people don't think about that very much. And it's weird because like the type of people I think that Stadia is shooting for are the people that depend on the hardware, like on their phones or like consoles, to be relatively stable. So thinking about how that factors into the experience is tough. So even with that confusion, going back to my original point, I think like having like a good exclusive game will actually like help remedy things quite a bit, because it helps show a blueprint to everybody else. Like, this is the kind of like experience that's unique to Stadia that other games can't provide. I haven't thought a lot about what that game might be, but I think that would actually help Google sort of turn it around and demonstrate that they can provide value to it, assuming that's their strategy. I think like them offering low amounts of money is trying to maybe play possum a little bit while they do try to negotiate and get like a really good deal from someone to make some kind of exclusive content. I'm not quite sure. It's really, I guess to answer your question about whether or not how they could turn it around is, I think they need to develop their own games. I'm not sure how they can do it because they certainly don't, they're not a first party publisher or developer. Yeah, sorry, I don't know. Maybe check back in the next month.
No, they have a first party team in Montreal making games. Yeah,
it's a lot of Ray's old friends.
Oh shoot!
No. I mean, I can totally understand how you feel like there isn't a first party team because they're not really announcing anything.
But I mean, like no games have been announced, but they definitely
they're still being made, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Sorry, my apologies to. Yeah, my apologies to Jade and yeah, it's because like that was like a kind of a very great lead-in point for Stadia games, but it's kind of like washed over by all of the lack of news and sort of it's
great that they brought like the people, the appeal, right? But these are people that take 5 to 10 years to make a game and hope that I think that's the timeline we're looking at. Yeah,
it takes a while to make a game, period, right? And so it's going to take a while before you see these first party games come out. For sure.
Yeah. But I want to ask you, Ray, like we're a third in the year, right, of 2020. We're in March now. All right. It's safe to say that we're not going to have anything this year for Stadia. There's no exclusive games coming out. There's nothing exciting going. That's why their best choice in action right now is just being quiet because they don't have anything to talk about, right? Is there anything this year they can do? Do they need to be as aggressive as Xbox been buying just a bunch of third parties and just get something out there to kind of save some face?
I have no idea what their plans were for GDC. I have no idea what their plans are for E3. I assume there are plans for all these things, and maybe we'll hear more around E3.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys still think E3 is gonna happen, or the coronavirus is gonna get worse? What's going on with that? I mean, we're basically 2 months away from that, so I don't know. It seems really close. It doesn't sound like it's slowing down.
Right now everybody's kind of like, let's wait to see what happens at the end of March, right? A lot of travel and a lot of companies are closed until the end of March, and then they're going to reassess. So we'll see. Like maybe by then, after all the precautions are taken, it will start tapering off, and then it won't be, the number of affected people won't just be growing crazy. But we just have to wait and see. Right?
Yeah. I mean, between the two cities of San Francisco and LA, if I had a choice in outbreaks, I prefer San Francisco. I don't want to be in Los Angeles when shit goes bad, dude. Oh, man. So
yeah, I don't think it's going to be.
It's not going to be like The Walking Dead.
No, it's not Walking Dead. You know what the coronavirus reminds me of? It's like, I forget what the game is called. It's like Epidemic or something, and it's like you can create this virus that can spread like crazy, and then you eventually see the world like shut off all like air transportation, and the lethality rate's not super high, but you infected everybody, and then eventually someone makes the cure, and then you lose the game. And so I feel like that's kind of like, obviously it's not a video game, but it just kind of, I feel like there's the response to it has been pretty strong in the wake of like so I think like hopefully like I'm not sure exactly when SARS happened, Brandon, how did it sort of like die down? Like I'm trying to remember like when that happened.
My memory was like it was a lot of SARS was a lot more deadlier because but the thing is they didn't get the data until after everything happened. It was 10% kill rate of whoever got infected, right? Right now we're at coronavirus at 2%, but might be climbing, but we're still in like the beginnings of it. We're talking about Orange County where we're from, right? There's just recently today there's like 2 cases in Santa Ana that just happened. So the spread is slowly happening, but it isn't as crazy as I feel most people are making it out to be. But again, I'm at home most of the time now, so I tell my wife, it's like until our neighbors start like spazzing out, we have nothing to worry about. We're the last ones that get infected. I just don't see it being a big deal. I feel like America, if anything, overreacts more than other countries that are actually impacted by this right now.
Well, like
SARS only infected 8,000 people. So anyway, go on.
Yeah.
No, but just also remember too, though, like there are 2 deaths in Seattle. Most folks don't die unless you have a compromised immune system. So like it's not that big of a deal, right? But it's still like in the US, there are some cases of people dying and getting affected, right? So it's like it's still something you should take serious. Yeah. But it's not like you're going to catch it and then just drop dead, right? Like that's not necessarily going to happen. Yeah. But it's definitely something you don't want to be spreading around and catching, right? So you still have to be careful and take it serious.
Yeah, so looking at some statistics, so SARS lasted about 2 years, at least according to the Wiki outbreak data, and infected 8,000 people, whereas coronavirus has been around for I'll just say conservatively 4 months, and it's something like 90,000 people worldwide have been diagnosed. People, So it's highly, highly contagious. So I think like that's kind of like why there's been such like drastic measures, because it only takes like a couple people and then it just kind of all hell sort of break loose.
Cool. Yeah. It's the new zombie virus. Well, we'll see, man. I really doubt at this rate E3 is going to happen. I think they're praying that it will, but this, if anything, day to day, week to week, it seems like this thing has been coming, at least in the United States, becoming more of an issue. Yeah, I'm not too surprised that GDC was canceled. I was surprised how long it took for them to finally pull the trigger. It took them a good while. I mean, we were looking at the list, everybody, I'm sure, of the booths that were kind of being red-lined out. And it was pretty much how a virus would infect the booths if it was done in real time. It was like Epic, Amazon, Unity, Facebook was first. It was like all the major companies. So it was just really, they left with no choice. But that is what it is. With Stadia, just to kind of finish that up, I don't know. My heart says because Ray's team is still there, right? That's a lot of hefty checks. Ray's old friends are over there.
Why is my name being uttered in this?
That's the crew over there, right? The Ubisoft crew is over there. So I'm sure they're working on something exciting. It's just going to take a while. But what I'm curious about is, are they willing to kind of sit that for the next 3 years with bad press? In hopes that Assassin's Creed-ish game is gonna break records everywhere, right? Don't know. I have no idea, man. It's Google.
Why are you assuming it's Assassin's Creed-ish? Why? You're making a lot of assumptions there, bro.
Man, it has to be some kind of big open world Stadia game that connects YouTubers and viewers alike. It has to be some kind of global change of a game that connects all the Google services together. Like they always go big like that, right? But who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? But it's going to take a while. I'm just curious to see how, ever since the launch or whatever, like, is there going to be any good press that comes out, But there has been nothing but bad stuff happening ever since the announcement. Yeah. So anyways, moving on. Talking about the streaming world a bit, right? So this was kind of a surprise because the day that I was kind of excited about Geforce Now being like an alternative, right? Being the answer, the interim step to streaming games. Right after beta closed and officially launched, Blizzard, Activision pulled out, so none of their games worked. And shortly after, Bethesda pulled out, and none of their games worked. And people forget Geforce Now was in beta or alpha for like 4 years, so they had no issues until they finally launched, which was a big sucker punch to the gut. Which also means that they lost all trust. Like everybody who buys into the system is like, oh, so tomorrow all these games can disappear. Fuck that. I'm going to wait for the next thing. So I want to know your thoughts. Ray's shaking his head. Did you anticipate something like this happening?
Of course. Like when it was first described to me, I was like, that sounds a little bit too good to be true. How did they secure the deal with all of the publishers, and how did this work? And it turns out they did not, right? So then all the publishers were like, give me back my game, right? And it's the same kind of problem. Like if you have any sort of platform like this, it's a problem of getting the content and signing the deals, right? And the big players are like, nah, like we want to control this. We want to control our IP. We don't want to just be having people streaming it wherever they want from whatever service they want. We want to make sure that we recoup some of the costs of this, right?
Mm-hmm. So what do you think about that? I mean, it sounds pretty fair on paper, right? With it's very similar to the VR arcades, Rich, right? If you ever seen those popping up in Orange County, they have these VR setups in like strip malls or whatever. It's like licensing deals, right? For those games to be displayed and played on the hour or by tokens, you have to pay a different fee than for just buying the game outright for $60, right? I'm assuming Geforce Now didn't have that type of deal, or at least this was so new that licenses or companies like Activision didn't pen a deal to make this profitable enough for them to kind of loan their games or their libraries to this service. Do you feel like this is just one of those things that will never happen again?
I don't think people are going to stop trying to invest in services like GeForce Now. Just like they're not going to give up on Google Stadia anytime soon, which is a very similar sort of not exactly one-to-one, but you know what I mean. It's like the ability to take your games on the go. Honestly, like I was just going to say that I'm pretty sure that it's just a lot of like bottom line motivated. Like when you license out your game to be played on like something like a platform like GeForce Now, maybe they just aren't making as much money off of it. Maybe like the margins are so low, because I haven't looked at like GeForce Now's like sort of what the cost is.
It's $5
a month. Yeah,
last time I checked. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so low. That's so little money. Man. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I honestly, sorry, Brenda, I don't really know what else to say, but I feel like companies that have proven in the past to make decisions based off monetary gain, such as like Activision, Blizzard, and Bethesda, doesn't surprise me that they would take a step away from it. And maybe like they're afraid of like losing some control over who plays it and not being able to like monetize it. I think it's also like a buddy of mine actually just texted me saying, I think the compression issue is huge too. I don't know what that means, but I'll say it for you, Bob. So I there, boom. But
But you're talking about like the streaming, right?
Crowd favorite. yeah, talking about the streaming.
Yeah, but one of the things I guess something good to mention about, like, as soon as Activision pulled out, right, and Nvidia was kind of doing like damage control, and they're saying like a misunderstanding was the reason why Activision kind of removed their games, and kind of going into detail, because they were all these publishers were a part of the service for 4 years straight, right? It was a long time that it was okay until it was not okay. So it was a bit of a surprise. But the thing that most people, I think Nvidia's side was not understanding is like they're not they are profiting, right? They're just providing a hardware to kind of run people's accounts. But like, I think what Ray is shaking his head to is like, you're still allowing connections to my game. Therefore, you can't just rent it out. Just like early days of podcasting or anything, you can't just run people's podcasts without asking them. Things of that nature, right? So it makes a little sense, but at the same time, it's a sucker punch, because I was super excited about it. It just seems like no one's in the leading position right now for streaming. I think everyone's kind of just waiting for PlayStation and Xbox to kind of release their thing and just make it official already, because all these newbies making noobish mistakes and not and not announcing games on game day, man. It's like letting people sit, early adopters especially, sit 60, 50 days now, right, Ray, without saying anything about what's going on. It's kind of crazy. I guess people are no.
This is the beginning. This is the beginning, man. This is the beginning of video game streaming. So everybody's just trying something out and seeing what will stick. Everybody's waiting to see what next gen consoles are talking about and what services Xbox and PlayStation are talking about, right? So like everybody's just waiting and see. And then like this is just the baby steps.
Baby step, the tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg. And then like, 5 years from now, what does it look like? You know what I mean? Is it gone, or is it the new normal? Who knows? Right?
I still, my stance have always been the same. Like 5 years from now, what does streaming look like? It's just going to belong to Sony or Xbox. I feel like those two megaliths are the ones that are going to stick with a plan, because they have plans to kind of grow and do things correctly. They've been in the game so long. They know the next console, next hardware isn't a hardware upgrade. It's a service upgrade. So they're preparing for that, right? I mean, there's been a lot of rumors how the next PS5, the Scarlet, is it the Scarlet? Is that what they're calling it? I forget.
That's the Xbox. That's the Xbox one.
Yeah, the next Xbox one, right? Are going to be the last actual hardware that they're going to release. There's been rumor for so long, and it feels like it's, if anything, that's becoming more and more true. And that they've been pretty silent, man. I mean, they have their own xCloud and PlayStation Now and stuff, but they're not really premiering those as their main thing. It's kind of like a side thing right now. So I'm still waiting for that big announcement saying that, hey, full on PlayStation, play on your phone at any point or whatever. It works. Don't worry, we're here. We got those exclusive games, right? This is why you want to be on our service. I feel like they can do that at any moment in the coming months, and that's going to completely take away from whatever Google is not doing. I mean, is that? Do you feel like that's sort of the case, Ray? Like, do you feel like it doesn't matter what these fools are doing? It's going to end up being Sony versus Microsoft again? Or do you think Stadia is actually going to be an actual player?
Yeah, I think Stadia could be an actual player because Google has all the money in the world, right? So they could just pour money into it and like say, "Hey, you guys got 3 years. Let's see how this goes." Right?
I would.
Know what I mean? Like they could just chill out and just do that.
I would agree with you if Amazon, right, had a successful game studio by now, and if Google's killer apps hasn't been about killing off apps. Like, that's their main thing. They haven't been doing anything successful. So like, it's hard to kind of root for these I guess Silicon Valley companies, because it's hard to kind of see them follow through. Like, Amazon's still struggling with the exclusive game. And from what I've heard, with their New World and all these other games, dude, it's I'm sure you've been hearing.
I'm not even thinking about Amazon right now. I'm just talking about, like, why like Amazon. Like, let's not talk about that. But like, but for Google, right? For Google, like, they got people that make video games working for them, right? And so they're like, okay, guys, the timer's ticking. Here's how much money we're going to spend on this. Let's see what happens, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that's kind of their approach to it, right? And who knows what else they have in the back burner, who they sign up, like what other games are coming. Like, we don't know, right? But yeah, the silence is deafening right now for sure. So they definitely need to come with something, but we'll see. Right?
Yeah, I really do hope it'd be nice, because right now it's Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. It'd be nice to have a 4-player. The advantages is pretty much, let's go back to their announcements. Like, the YouTube tie-in feature is a huge feature to be able to be watching somebody play and be able to join them. I mean, that's amazing. They're the only companies that I know that can do that, right? They have YouTube. They're the only ones with YouTube. It'd be nice if they have the patience to kind of figure that out. But their history.
Why you say it like that, though?
It's just their history, man. Man, I was on, dude. This is how disappointed I was. All in with Google Wave, dude. You remember that shit? It was that.
I remember. Yeah.
Like that real-time email, gonna change email 3.0 or whatever. I was on that stuff. I was having small development teams on that, and they cut me off. And what was another one? Another one that I was part of, Google Voice at one point.
Forget all that, right? Like, I think that from Wave, a lot of stuff came out of Wave that's in Google Drive and Google Docs right now.
Sure.
So they kind of they learned some lessons and coalesced some of the technology. I am still furious about Google Reader.
Yeah,
right.
I love Google Reader. I was a part of that. Yeah.
But I have something that takes its place now. But still, I'm still mad about Google Reader. Like, right? I think Google Reader should still be here, but it's gone, right? And there's a whole host of things they've killed off, right? But like I said, they got money. They know video games are a long-term investment. They hired video game people that are telling them this is a long-term investment, and so they just have to. They're like, okay, guys, you have X amount of years. Let's go, right? And right now, are they bungling all of this? And there's not a proper rollout plan and a launch plan? Hell yeah, for sure. Yeah. But who knows what is up their sleeve?
Well, let's just pray that the vets over there know what they're doing. We're all praying for them. So moving on to the next thing, right? I know we were talking about GeForce Now, but I mean, it all ties in together to what streaming looks like. It is the year of the streaming. I think it all going to end with PlayStation announcing whatever they have plans for. And I think people are kind of waiting for the big dogs to come into play with this stuff. So nothing counts until they announce what they're doing. So let's talk about and move on to the next thing. This might be really quick, but it's something that we've been talking about in a few roundtables now, and it's worth talking about because I grew up with GameStop throughout my career, right? Before digital gaming became a thing. I hung out at GameStop a lot. A lot of the times I played. It was between GameStop and Best Buy where I sampled games, right? So Ray has no empathy towards this, but I don't really either, because I don't know why they're still around, to be honest. But every month there's always a story saying how employees are talking about how their bosses are being really desperate. The thing that I teased about, if you remember, Ray, about how they should turn their store into like a hangout, right? Make use of their physical space is actually a thing, right? They're actually rolling that out to a few selected stores to kind of test that idea. I don't know if they listen to Game Dumb and Chain. I don't know where, but but it's exactly how I said it. It's like, how can you turn these little stores, which they have so many across the states, into mini hubs, right? Into a hangout spot to be around games and see up games. Yeah.
Yeah, let's shout out Electronics Boutique, big up, because that is also what got rolled into GameStop, and also Babbage's, right? Big up. Like I remember back in the day,
Babbage's.
Those were the spots I would go to get games, right? But that's just not it anymore, right? And those places now, GameStop kind of absorbed all of that and turned into a big just used games clearinghouse.
Store, yeah.
Like to get new games, you have to like go up to the counter and really like give you the game behind the counter. Otherwise, the whole like 80% of the stores is full of used games, right? It's just a leech and a drain on the industry. It should just die in the fire.
Yeah.
Right. And
they definitely turn everyone against them. You're not gonna cry.
And so I'm not going to shed any tears for GameStop going out of business or filing for bankruptcy or not. Because also, if you go to a GameStop store these days, it's so depressing, crowded. Because of course they're going to take the space and they're going to cram it full of used games. That's where they make all their money. Yeah. So it's crowded. It's dark, dingy, depressing. The staff doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. And I'm gonna go and do all that when I can just download the game that I want online and just be done with it. Like what are we talking about here, right? Like why am I going to this place? It serves no purpose, right? So, I have no sympathy or I have no nostalgic feelings, right? But like those stores used to be stores I used to go to back in the day. But technology has left those stores in the dust. It's over.
Well, let me turn it to someone that actually has a heart for nostalgia. So, Rich, I want to ask you, right? Because you're the game designer of the group, right? One of the biggest trends in the last few years has been analog gaming. Like a lot of board gaming, card gaming has been making a comeback. Kickstarter campaigns making millions and millions of Kickstarter. So there's a lot of upsurge of group party or physical interaction with gaming, right? Is there a chance that GameStop can turn into these spaces less about digital games, but into like actual? Can they somewhat convert into those type of spaces to kind of have a chance? I mean, they still have these physical stores all over the place.
So I think the main challenge there is Raymond was kind of saying is that there do exist like those hobby stores already, and they generally are much larger because you need to have a lot of physical space in order to accommodate a variety of activities. Like most GameStops, I'm going to say are like maybe at biggest, like 2,000 square feet, and like most hobby stores that I like go to and know of have like multiple floors, and they already are pre-set up with for like, you know, Warhammer, D&D, like card games, and you know they also have a store on top of it too. So I think that while that instinct I think is correct, Brandon, is like, yeah, I want to use your physical space for like other games. I still think that like it's going to be hard for GameStop to convert over to that, just because like the reason why it's going to use game sales all the time is because, you know, they're like keeping all of the profit, and it's not hard to imagine like, oh, if we just sell merchandise too, so you can buy like Fortnite dolls or Pokemon dolls and stuff, and like they're going to make a lot more money off of that than just trying to, you know, because these are things that like people will impulse buy a lot more. Like you don't really go online to buy like physical toys, because like if you buy digital games, like going online is way easier. But you know, like as you said, like Brendan, like using the space for interaction, I think is definitely the way to go. But again, you're also competing with people who already just run board game night in the comfort of their own homes and stuff like that. So, and also like the hobby stores, which I think are much larger and generally more specialized than GameStop. So I think it'd be very difficult for them to turn around. I wouldn't mind more hobby stores in general. I love comic books and all that stuff. So, you know, that's me.
Yeah, but also I don't think hobby stores are as profitable as the profit GameStop is looking for, right? So,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like nothing says losing money like operating a hobby store, right? So,
I mean, every year it's equally as impressive seeing that GameStop is still in the headlines. Like they're still having enough money to come up with a new scheme. So I'm still very impressed that they're still kicking and somewhat surviving. I don't know how I can say that next year. It seems like they're really on their last legs this time. Every year it feels like they're on their last leg, but it really does feel this year they're on their last legs. But I mean, they're facing a problem that is happening across all industries, right? Less and less people are going to malls for shopping for anything now. Malls are closing left and right, not just GameStop stores. But at the same time, I'm starting to see like a lot of these VR location-based services happening everywhere, right? So it's a weird kind of juxtaposition to kind of see how less people are going to malls, but like more game arcades are popping up again, where arcades have died a long time ago, besides Dave & Buster's, right? So I don't know.
I refuse to say that statement. I want my arcades to still live on, but
Yeah.
I will say this, though. I mean, you go.
Go on.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say something.
Oh
stupid.
no, like oh, well, that's almost all the time. The before I started all of this, like actually, like I worked at GameStop, and that's actually like I worked with like during like a holiday rush in a mall that actually had an arcade near it, and like a skate park near it. So like that to me was like the pinnacle of like gaming before it became cool to have like location based gaming like Pokemon Go and stuff. And so I look back on those days really fondly, and you know, I kind of wish that like that happened more, but like yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to just be tough because like, you know, most people are lazy and just want to stay home, and the people who do want to go out can be choosy with where they go also. So I just don't know if they can just, like your original suggestion, like go to a GameStop that's been converted over into a, you know, board game stop or something like that. Like I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, we might be like, this might be one of the last times we talk about GameStop. I just wish, because there seems to be like a return to wanting to be in groups again. All right, we're talking about Dave & Buster's is still fine. They're always filled. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever been to, well, you shake your head, but man, they're always full whenever I go back, at least in the Irvine Spectrum one. And then well, round one.
That's because it's Irvine Spectrum. Irvine Spectrum is the most crowded place that you could possibly
But
imagine.
people still go to Dave & Buster's. Yeah, right. But and then places like Round One. You guys ever heard of Round One, which is like that Japanese arcade?
I've heard Round One.
It's a blend.
No, it's the bowling alley.
Bowling,
you do
games,
karaoke,
and karaoke.
No, round one's dope. Yeah. So,
Yeah, so I mean, all those mixes still work.
There's one up by me. There's one up by me as well.
Yeah, it's fun.
Again, I used to hang out in the arcade all the time when I was in high school. Like back in the day, I used to just live in the arcade, and so like I remember what that's like, and I want those times back for sure, because it was always a fun time to discover new games and also the competitive scene, right?
Yeah,
like, be super competitive, with the folks, right? So, but yeah, those days are.
Well, you say it's gone. You say it's gone, but like I came across like there was a little space in the mall where they were setting up all these pinball machines. There was like 12 to 18 of them in a room. And I was there with my 9-year-old son. And of course, it's his first time seeing such a thing. What are these machines, right? But he was just having as much fun as I was. Like, it hasn't gone away. I just feel like it hasn't been represented to this new generation of how this stuff is still valuable. Especially, I think, if anything, in contrast, it's actually more fun now because everybody's on their phone in their little bubble, right? Like, these spaces are more important than ever to show that, hey, interaction is actually pretty cool. So my hope is still up. Maybe GameStop is not the answer. It might be round 2 or Dave & Buster's 2. Like, we just got to lend the torch to those guys.
I think the logistics are really important, like making sure that the space is large enough for like there being a variety of activities. That's why round 1 is awesome. I love going to that place, and it's super cool, super dope.
Yeah. I guess Closet Space GameStop can't do anything, right?
These days, it seems like Top Golf is also kind of blowing up right now.
Top Golf, I've heard of that, but I haven't gone to one. Is it golf arcade place, Dave & Buster ish?
It's basically it's a driving range, but it's gamified, right? So the balls have chips in them, and they track.
I heard about that.
Exactly. And the balls have chips in them, and they track it, and you play. They have different games that you can play. So it's also like you could be a complete scrub at golf and still have a fun time.
They serve alcohol. I heard they have arcades on top for the kids, right? It's something.
Yeah, they serve alcohol, food. Some places do concerts as well. It's big in the South, right? And I just went to one a couple of weeks ago in Vegas, and it was a fun time.
That's what I'm saying.
That's funny. I just looked it up. It's right next to MGM Grand. Damn, that's cool.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, these type of spaces have a gamified aspect to it that are becoming very popular. And it's just the old idea of what we used to go to arcades for. So when GameStop says they want to do something, but I do agree with you, Rich, it's the spaces that they have right now is just too small. But is it impossible to do anything with that space to kind of invite this kind of mindset? Is it completely done, or is it just the idea of GameStop is...
I think one thing that's a common link between like round 1, Top Golf, and I think those Dave & Buster's is alcohol. And that's where you're going to get a lot of profit margins no matter what. And you're going to get people that want to hang out there a long time no matter what. So I'm just going to...
there you go. Wine and cheese then, right? Right when you get to GameStop. I can get down with that. Try this VR set.
Yeah, kind of cool.
Try this VR set while you're drunk. In San Francisco, there's Coin Up Bar as well, which is a bar with a bunch of classic arcade games.
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
I've been to that. Fun. Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying, man. People, I totally feel like people want, like, I've been around my kid who's never been a part of that type of life, and he walks into it super wide-eyed and the same as I was when I was his age. So I don't feel like it has really changed.
But the answer is just burn GameStop to the ground and go to all these other places.
Yeah, let's just like create new. I really do think GameStop is done. Like, I don't think they have the right people to kind of think in innovative ways. It's just a lot of like old crummy gangsters of used car salesmen trying to kind of make it go correctly.
Dude, Raymond, well, like when you were at the driving range at Top Golf, what are those big holes in the ground? Do you like shoot and get points for? Sorry, I'm like totally interested in Top Golf now.
No. Those are the holes, right? So basically, there's different
That's so
rings.
dope.
So if you're a scrub and you just get into the outer ring, you get points for it. But if you get closer to the middle,
Yeah.
you get more points for it. And it's super cool. Yeah, and it tracks your balls
That's
and
cool. Yeah.
shows the trajectory, how far you've hit it. There's a bunch of other mini games too. So it's
All right.
actually I'm super impressed with them.
I'm in, Ray. Yeah, if you want to fly us to Vegas, that's fine.
Well, there's one in San Jose.
San Jose?
There's one in San Jose, and there's one in Roseville in Sacramento as well.
There's none in Orange County, Rich. I guess we got to create
well, dude, I'm going to GDC in a couple of weeks. Maybe I'll just take a trip up to Sacramento too, or go to San Jose.
The San Jose one's closer, but
yeah. Cool.
Well, we're rounding in. I just want to end it up with this one last topic, right? So, Riot Games, for a long time, was kind of teased as Riot Game because they only had LOL to kind of survive off of. But in the last year, they came hard, man, with 4 or 5 games, new IPs announced within the League of Legends universe. But the most recent one being Valorant, which looks like a cross between CSGO and Overwatch, right? Which I feel is a very smart game design aesthetic to go by. I think anything a little bit more than CSGO is a very smart game design choice. But I would love to know your thoughts. Let's start with Rich, right? So Rich, I know you can...
Oh God, why?
You can be super nice, which is fine. I can be the super bad one. But like, please talk about this. Like this idea of like this branching out from what they're usually just known for one IP, suddenly being able to kind of just explode into these. It seems like they just had a reconnaissance with
reconnaissance.
A renaissance of ideas.
So, first of all, hats off to Riot for finally getting a bunch of games out. I was there during a time when basically pretty much all of them were in development. But they weren't nearly as ready or as polished or as complete as they are now. And honestly, like I'm enjoying playing, TFT and Legends of Runeterra. It's really fun to sort of like see those games finally out and just playing them. I'm particularly excited to see how Valorant shapes out because, when thinking about a game like CSGO and trying to innovate upon it, you think about things like how do you do like iterative innovation, like adding hero classes, adding like really nice like fantasy to it, and then how do you do like disruptive innovation? So things like Battlegrounds, like what has Battlegrounds done to FPSs? And what does like having hero classes like in TF2 do to FPSs? So I think like a combination of like a super hardcore shooter in a more team-based game is actually super awesome. I hope that to get more information as this stuff comes out because I think that CSGO has I'm not sure, don't quote me on this, but I think CSGO has risen in terms of popularity on streaming, and it's one of those like sort of evergreen games because of the competitive nature of it. So I think Valorant's really cool because it's trying to be as super hardcore competitive as like League of Legends is, and to do it in a way that sort of challenges like is old guard correct for CS? And I think I know a lot of the people who are working on now it's no longer called Project A or even Ares, it's called Valorant, which is a much cooler name. And I think that they have the right people to really nail that one. The key is to make it accessible. I think that when you think of CSGO and you think about being headshotted instantly by someone who has faster reflexes than you, that's going to be harder, I think, to overcome than say teaching players how to, as a team in League of Legends in a strategic game, to learn things. But we'll see. I mean, I think there's a lot you can do in the round-to-round gameplay design to make it so that advantages and disadvantages swing back and forth. That's a key thing to how how to make MOBAs work. And it's a key thing to like sort of add another layer of gameplay depth to an otherwise very session-based gameplay. That's why CSGO is still going on and on and on. And I know the guys at Riot know this, and I know like if they do hear me talking about this, they'll be like maybe nodding their head or whatever. But I think that they've been working on it for a long time, so it's good that it's finally out.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, okay, first of all, the only thing I have to add to this of any sort of substance is that we are ignoring Legends of Runeterra, which is another one of their new games, and also League of Legends Wild Rift. League of Legends Wild Rift, which is another one of their new games, and both of those games are actually hashtag made with Unity. So that's my that is what I have to add to this discussion.
That's probably why I didn't care. Yeah. Because Valorant is made by Unreal, huh? It's funny how that kind of popped out.
I have no idea what
it just popped out to me visually. I don't know why the Valorant suddenly just out of those three. One of it was the card game, and the other one, what was it? I forgot what was the third one.
One is League of Legends on mobile.
Okay.
If you count TF2, that's also on mobile and the League of Legends client. There's also the animated series. There's also Riot Forge, which has a bunch of games as well too. And Valorant was just announced. That's why I was mentioning it. But and Legends of Runeterra as well.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot, man. That's like the most games a studio announced within a year, which is pretty impressive for. I mean, I guess that's what 15 years of not announcing a new game can do. Just suddenly
that was it.
Bursting at the.
For what it's worth, again, I'm not a Riot spokesperson. They've only been around. They announced a lot of those games during their 10-year anniversary, and Mark and Brandon always had a plan to, make Riot Games. Just there's a documentary that you can, more than just LOL. But like honestly, like when you have a game as successful as LOL, it's kind of hard to. I mean, it's like you're sort of competing with yourself.
Yeah.
But it's also like if you keep having like sort of exponential growth year over year. I mean, that's not actually the case, but if it's like, making you billions of dollars and there's no clear competitor, like I worked with, Blizzard on a MOBA, and it was very tough to try and like uproot League, and so like when you're there, it's like, hey, like let's keep this going, make it stable, and then really like refine out all of the R&D games, get them really nice, get them to a place where like as soon as we announce them, we can just line them up and just like show them. I mean, that's a pretty solid strategy. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And Legends of Runeterra is actually a pretty decent card game. Like I've played it a bit, and I've enjoyed it a lot.
For some reason, whenever I see that Unity logo, I kind of turn away from it. I don't know. It's like a
like I
just run the other way. I'm like halfway through the door. I don't know why.
I mean, you definitely shouldn't be doing that. You definitely should be doing that because you're gonna be missing out on some of the greatest games that are made, right?
Brandon, I just want to say that if you have Unity Pro, which Riot does, and even my small indie company does, you can make it so that the Unity logo doesn't actually appear. So
that's the team that like Ray is trying to change the mindset. That's his team. He's like, hey, let's keep that logo on. Let's try to make it happen.
Right.
It's the curse that they're trying to remove.
Definitely want folks to show the logo and be proud that they're using Unity for their game.
This is me every time I see the Unity logo. I was like, what? But I will say the Valorant has made some really great choices. Like I'm usually not into those type of games, right? But MOBA type of games, I know I should give it a chance.
I don't think MOBA.
It's like a MOBA shooter. Even Overwatch is a stretch for me. Like
no. I don't know if it's making good choices because I saw it. And it looks like CS:GO Go. It looks like Overwatch. I don't know what sets it apart from those games. Right?
It's enough for me.
It's a very stylized art style, right? Like a lot of it looked very similar to Overwatch to me when I saw it, right? But maybe that's what they want to do. That's cool. Like they have a whole stable of games that are coming out.
Yeah.
And so they want to kind of touch, different
Everything.
touch points, right? Yeah.
Well, one thing that I would say, and I'm just guessing at this point, the Overwatch like esport sort of spectator experience is not as good as it can be, just because the game was never. It's like super hard to sort of follow. Whereas I think that one of the things that League sort of got better at over time was the quality at which they could broadcast the game and sort of analyze the game. And if you add like in breaks in the game, which like CSGO naturally does, and then Valorant probably has, if they announced it, I don't know, like we'll see. And I think like if you have like really good commentary on that, and then you do like a micro play of the game like round to round, then I think it actually becomes a pretty compelling viewer experience.
Yes.
Whether or not it will hit the same amount of critical I just don't know what their monetization model is, because like Overwatch sold like, I don't know, 7 trillion copies or something. So I'm not sure what exactly it is there, but you know, like part of it, sometimes it doesn't even matter. It's more about like making sure that Riot Games' brand like stays strong, stays competitive, makes like say evergreen competitive games. So you know, I'm just, you know, let's see how it goes. I think like there's a lot that you can improve on the spectator experience, especially for competitive shooters.
Yeah, I agree. Well, they haven't announced like if it's free. I'm assuming it's free to play, right? All these titles.
I don't know.
All right. It didn't seem. It seems very.
I know Legends of Runeterra is free to play as.
Yeah, I mean that's their thing. I mean they've made so much money by making things free. So
I can't imagine there's any premium $60 game in that one.
Well, for me, from a person who's not interested in Overwatch or MOBA or any of that, Valorant looks very appealing to me because it's a little slower pace. I can tell what's going on, even with all the magic that's going on. But also, what's more likable to me is because it has the CS:GO bullet impacts that I like, where I expect you to die after I shoot you, right? Overwatch becomes kind of like a sponge bullet for me when I play through it, because everyone has like 1,000 shields on them, right? It just doesn't feel fun as a shooting game. So if they nail that part for Valorant, just the shooting mechanics, I am more open to explore the magical elements of it and be willing to go on that ride, because I already like the aesthetic. So I think they have a core grab of those type of people who are kind of in the middle there, which is a lot of people, right? You're talking about like Modern Warfare people, Battlefield people who don't play MOBA. That's a lot of people. Ray's kind of squinching his face. Why don't you go in there in your corner with your little card game, dude? All right.
All those people you mentioned, they ain't playing that game. But yeah, whatever.
All right, we'll see. All right, I'm willing to bet there's going to be more Valorant player than card player. I'll make that bold claim before our next round today. So
there's a lot of in every single one of like Riot's like new games there. This is something like I just learned from like working there. There's always like a couple core fundamental game system decisions that sort of like that form the basis for the entire game. And so like improving upon, you know, and you could just like turn it down into a single sentence like this is Legends of Runeterra is, what if we combine Hearthstone and Magic and you actually had counterplay during like a turn-based game? So it has more depth than Hearthstone, but also it has more depth than Hearthstone, but it's also slightly faster than Magic, you know? So like how far can they go to based off of that concept? And, you know, like Wild Rift, same sort of thing. Like how can you make a successful MOBA for League of Legends players, and which are mostly in North America, you know? And so like I think it's always very interesting to see another like big company that's trying to like push boundaries and stuff like that. So, you know, like cheers to Riot for making all of these new games come out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great distraction from all the sexual harassment stuff that then kind of it's been dominating the headlines with Riot, right? So I'm glad to talk about games again, right? Hey, I gotta mention it, man. We can't just forget. It's just like 2 months ago, dude. So let's just talk about how their designers are doing a great job. All right. And I'm looking forward to what these games will mean. I think all of them, like we just mentioned, have gonna be a big impact for the genres that are releasing it. But I want to also serve this time as saying that we have gone the limit. I want to thank you guys, my panel of game developers out here, Ray Graham, Richard Q, for joining me every month to talk about the latest and greatest game news. And hopefully everybody, listeners and watchers, have enjoyed our ranting and our opinions. And again, we only represent ourselves and not on behalf of the company we work for. So please do not get us fired. And that concludes this month's Roundtable. I want to go to your screenshot right here for everybody that is viewing. Ray, thank you for coming on. Oh, this way. All right. As always, repping Reunity. And Richie Q being the awesome game designer on this side. Oh, he's leaving frame. Thank you for joining me again. So thank you guys.
No problem.
Oh, no problem, man.
All right.
Fun, dude.
All right. So that's it. That's our Roundtable. See you guys next week.